Hello folks, today we will be building both a front-end application using React and a back-end application using Java and Spring Boot. And the whole purpose is pretty much to trigger notifications from the backend up to the front-end and into Chrome in this particular case, or in the pop-up notification that you will get from the operative system. Okay, so before actually diving into the coding part, I want to show you how everything will look like. And for that, we have this React application, really simple one. I'm gonna trigger a push notification from the backend in this case, and there you go. This is the kind of notification we will get if we are inside the web application, as in this case. But what will happen if we navigate away from there? I'll trigger another notification, and you can see on the right hand side, we have the same notification, but in a different shape. Okay, before jumping in the actual coding, let's create a repository. I like to do that for a couple of purposes. First, to keep the code safe, and second, to share the code with you all. That's the intention here. There's two things that we can use to create, or multiple things that we can use to create and trigger notifications up to the browser. We can probably just build it from scratch with pure JavaScript and just pushing content from the backend point of view and so on and so forth. In this case, I decided to go with Firebase because that will allow us to seamlessly push notifications without much complication, right? There's a lot of abstraction with service workers, with the private and public keys that you'll need behind the scenes, etc. So that's what we will be using today. And for that, we are going to call this like FCM, since we're going to use the Firebase messaging part, push notifications. Okay, now we just give a purpose, make it public in this case. That's it. Let's say we're gonna have both Java and all things, so let's keep that in mind. License, perfect, and that's it. We have our repository. Now let's clone that. Okay, here we are in our terminal, and we are gonna clone the repo. So to do that, we just paste the information here, git clone, and that's it. So FCM push notifications, that's the project we're gonna use. And let's open our development environment. Okay, here we are. As you can see on the left hand side, it's pretty much an empty repo. There's nothing in it, and we'll start defining the structure. So for that, we're gonna go into our terminal here. Let me close the previous one. We're gonna hide this Explorer for the moment. Let me try to make this bigger so you can see better. That's it. And we are going to use npm to create the application from a React template, right? So for that, we just type npm create. We're gonna use byte latest, and what's gonna be the name of the application? In this case, we're gonna put front end push up, and the template it's gonna use React. This will show a wizard where we can decide specific parameters. For whatever reason React was not selected. Then we're gonna use just pure JavaScript for this, and that's pretty much it. We can return to the actual Explorer, and as you can see here, this is a front-end application. What else I can show you here? In the source, we have the actual React. For those familiar with React, you can see the structure is quite similar. And let's just show you what this contains, right? So we go to the front end push up, and as you can see, npm install. It's kind of the initial step, just kind of to download all the dependencies. It will take just kind of a couple of minutes, and then everything will be ready. And after that, we're gonna run npm run dev. That will show us kind of the actual application. Okay, everything's ready, so we just type npm run dev, and this will open up the browser. Yeah, or we can do it kind of that manually here. Uh, Let me bring the browser to your screen so you can see it. So this is it. This is kind of a really just out of the box from the template kind of a React application. And you can see there's some kind of a state being saved here. And that's pretty much it. So we'll work on that just to kind of add a couple of kind of dependencies that we need for the push notification, and we'll come back to the browser. Okay, back to here. One thing we can do is uh, press Q to exit the Byte server, and that's pretty much it. So we might need kind of all dependencies, as I was just saying, for handling all the push messaging. So for that, since we're going to use Firebase, we're going to use npm install, and we're going to install Firebase and also React Toastify, which is pretty much kind of what we need to display the notification, right? So again, this will kind of just download a couple of dependencies that we just kind of specify, and that's it. Okay, now that we have the front-end application created from the template, the next thing that we will need to do is create a Firebase kind of a project. We will need certain configuration from that project. That's why we are going to do that now. So we go into create new project. As you can see here, we're gonna use some kind of a front-end push app demo or whatever you want to call it. So we'll just go with continue. If you want, you can kind of enable or disable kind of the analytics part. We're not going to use that for now. So we'll just create a project. This will take probably just a few seconds in fairness. It's kind of quite fast. And then I'll come back to this when it's done. Okay, now the application has been created. We just go to continue, and immediately we will see this. One of the complexities actually that I want to share with you regarding kind of a Firebase is that kind of there's a lot of material to connect kind of a Firebase with kind of front-end applications, but they're using kind of the alt API. Okay, let's go into here. We're inside the specific application, and we have to register the web part of this. So we just give that a name and register the app. The registration is kind of required for React to be able to connect to the Firebase functionality, and that's it. Okay, back to the root of our project. One thing that we have to do is also enable the backend application to send messages to Firebase. For that, we have to go into project settings. As you can see, this is the general tab. And actually at the bottom, we have all the configuration that I showed you earlier for the front-end web push. This configuration is going to be used on the React application to get notifications from Firebase, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But before going into that, let's go into the Cloud Messaging tab. In here, we need this web push certificate. This is pretty much a certificate key that we're going to define, also called as BAPID, which is the Voluntary Application Server Identity. And this is going to be used from the backend point of view to push notifications into Firebase. And from there, Firebase will handle everything to push notifications back to the browser. So we'll go in here, generate key. As you can see, this is already generated, and we can see the public and private key of all that in here. Couple of things to mention here is that if you're using kind of a Firebase SDK, there's a lot of kind of really simplification that is being done, so you don't have to worry too much about too many things. If you are working purely with kind of a JavaScript and kind of a pulling or kind of a, yeah, not pulling, using the service workers to kind of really to connect to the notification service and so on and so forth, you'll need pretty much a public key, a private key, and provide all that configuration yourself and so on and so forth. But don't worry too much about it. This particular time, we are going to use kind of the Firebase SDK, and there's going to be a lot of abstractions that will help us to kind of push notifications. So that's it here for now. Okay, back to our code. I'll just minimize this because we're not going to use it anymore for now. We'll just go into the Explorer part. As you can see, this is kind of a front-end application, and we're gonna define a .env file for kind of all the Firebase configuration. So new file, yes, we're gonna call it .env, and in here we're gonna use all the different parameters that we got from our web application configuration from Firebase, right? So let me just copy and show you what I'm going to do. We need all these environment variables that we will be using inside the code. And basically what we will do is just copy and paste everything from the configuration file itself into here. And that's pretty much it. Later inside the application, we'll be referring to all those values by the IDs or names. And that's it. Okay, after completing all that kind of a copy and paste kind of the keys and everything, the last one is pretty much kind of the BAP ID that I was talking about earlier. And everything is in here in the .env file. So the first thing that we need to do after that is pretty much kind of initialize kind of a Firebase connection, right? Inside the React application. For that, we're gonna create a new folder. Let's call it Firebase. And inside that, we're gonna create a configuration file. So we're gonna put Firebase config that's, sorry, JavaScript. And in here, we are gonna set up the Firebase connection. So let's import a couple of kind of things that we need. So from Firebase app in this case, and what we will need is the initialize app. This is the first one that we will need. The second one, since we're going to use Firebase cloud messaging, we need the cloud messaging part. So again, import from Firebase messaging. That's it. And we'll need the get messaging function there. That's it. And then after that, we define the application up, and we'll provide a parameter, which is the Firebase configuration that we will create in a second. And let's actually use that now. This will contain all the configuration bar values that we got earlier from actually from the end file. And what else? Oh yeah, we initialize the messaging part and we just provide as parameter the app. That's it. And in here, we are going to provide all the values, API key, to be able to extract the values from the environment variable, environment file. We just do import and the name of the variable, which is, I'll have it here, this one. Let me check, there's something else. Oh yeah, sorry. And we do the same with the rest. I'll just copy and paste all of them to avoid wasting your time. Uh, and that's it. As you can see, we have the API key, the domain, the project ID, etc., right? So this is how we initialize kind of the Firebase kind of a connection from the React application. Okay, after this, now that we have kind of a Firebase connected or connection, let's go into the React app because we will need a couple of things here to be able kind of to push notifications. We need to obtain permissions at the browser level to show something, and for that we'll use notification API. So, okay, in here in the React application, we go to the app file. This is it, and we'll define a couple of extra functions that we will need. So first of all, let's import a couple of things that we are gonna use. Import again, and we're gonna use the messaging part, and in this case, we're gonna get token function from there, and also we're gonna import the configuration we just set up, this one, and we're gonna call it, that's it. Now let's define the two functions, the first function that we will need, but before that let's define a constant. Okay, um, let's define an async function in here. Sorry, we'll use a request permission function here. So if permission it's equal granted, we just define the token, and we provide the configuration messaging on the Bapit key. That's it. Now let's uh, print something in the console there, and we are going to say that the token was generated. And if you want, you can produce add that also, and that's it. So else, so we're gonna put an alert, just saying that on that's gonna be the first thing that we will do. And what else? Oh yeah. So use effect here, what we will do is this function. We'll call the request permissions. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so next step, actually, let's move this to the right place, which is here. That's it. We're gonna define a new component. For that, let's create a new folder, component. And inside here, we're gonna define the message component. Okay, and okay, in here, let's define that. Notification. Okay. And the actual code is gonna be this. We're gonna return the div will be equal notification have, and we close that, and we close the div automatically. Then if notification contains an image, then we're gonna add a div with id image container, and we close that. We close the div, and inside that we just add the image, notification image, which is this part. Okay, with equal 100, let's say, and we close the image. What else? Oh yeah, uh, that's it. Then we just add a span. Okay, close that automatically, and then we'll add the notification title. Yeah, another div. In this case, equal notification body, and inside that we just use the notification dot body. That's it. So let me actually reduce this part so you can see the code. This is kind of the component, the message component that we will be using in the main application. Okay, with all that sorted, let's go back to the app and use all that. The first thing that we're going to do is import the React Toastify, the component that we installed. So import from React Toastify, and we will need the toast and the container. That's it. And after that, we're going to import our message component. Let me check if that was in the right. Okay, component. That's it. Yeah, that should be it. That's it. Oh yeah, the CSS for the Toastify, and then we just call the Toastify component at the end, um, the toast container, and that's pretty much it. In the kind of app component, we'll just define a function that we're gonna call on message, and in here, passing the messaging part and the function that we want to use once this happens, we'll use the payload and the actual behavior that we want to execute. In this case, we'll go into the console to print something. We will just say incoming message. That's it. Uh, that's it. And then we'll just call the toast with the message component we just created here. And as part of the notification, we'll just add the payload dot notification. That's it. Up until now, what we will get is pretty much kind of the notification inside the web application in case the user is kind of looking at that, right? But what will happen if we move away, we navigate away from that web application into something else? We need to add kind of that functionality actually here. For that, we can just go into the public. We have to interact actually with the service workers. New file. So Firebase messaging service worker. Sorry. Okay. Let me minimize this. And in here, we'll add the behavior that kind of will be called once a notification is pushed and we are not inside the application itself, the web application. So for that, we'll need to add a couple of kind of imports, kind of a Firebase, kind of a SDK and the messaging SDK. I have this already here, so we don't have to type those. And we'll pretty much kind of initialize again basics of the application. So we'll define const default config. This is going to be a key. Then, sorry, project ID, messaging sender ID, which is something we already configured. And finally, app ID. And that's going to be the configuration that we will use. Then we initialize again Firebase initialize app, and we provide the default configuration. Then we define the messaging part. And after that, we use that messaging on on background message just to handle that kind of specific scenario, right? So we will receive some payload as usual, and then we have to provide the functionality to handle all that. So let's say we want to paste something in the console. And we just print the payload itself. Let's define what's going to be the title of the notification. It's coming from the payload notification title, and the different options. Okay, and we're gonna have a body. And similarly, we're gonna use the icon. Um, we can provide a default value in case that doesn't come. So that has to be also defined in the public folder. And that's it. And what else? That's on the messaging. Yes, the final part. We're gonna register this as part of the notification. So notification title, and we're gonna provide the notification options too. And that's pretty much it. So this function will be called once we are navigating away from the actual web site, and then this will pop up from the service worker point of view. Okay, now it's time to test the application. I fixed a couple of things like we needed an export default message in the component. The other thing that I was actually looking into is that in here we use the use effect instead of the use internal effect, and we are not importing that here, so we're gonna fix all that. And the environment variables should be actually living inside the frontend app, so you can probably access all those values. And I think that's pretty much it. So next thing we will do is pretty much open the terminal and run npm run dev. This will start the server, and in the background we can see that this is working. Let's see what's happening. And the token is being generated, right? So this is good news. The next thing is how are we going to trigger notification? So I'll show you next. Okay, now let's take a look on how to trigger the notification, the actual notification from a Firebase point of view. So if you go into the project, in this case frontend push app, just scroll down a bit and you'll find cloud messaging. This is it, right? So in here at the top, you'll find create your first campaign. We're gonna use that, the first option there. And in here, we're gonna provide either title and body of the notifications. For example, test one and test two body. And in here, we have this button, we can use it. And next thing we're gonna do is copy the token generated from the application. Let's see, this one, and use that to send a notification. This will actually trigger a notification from Firebase into that specific browser. So as we are away from that web app, we'll see this kind of notification. Now let me move this away so I can show you how the notification is displayed once we are inside the application. So let me trigger another one. Okay, the same. And here you go. You can see this is kind of the way we're handling both scenarios when we are inside the web application and when we are outside. So everything's working. That's good news. That covers kind of the front end part of pushing notifications. In the next probably tutorial, I will cover the backend part, but this is it.